Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Nick. Today I'm going to be talking about what to play if you're a band's second guitarist, and I'm also going to be giving a little guide on closed triads. If you're only interested on the triads, check out the description. There's some chapters so you can skip ahead. I'm going to give some anecdotal evidence at the beginning, but if you're not interested in that and just want to get into the triad action, check out the chapters below. Also, check out the link in the description. I have a PDF of all the possible major triads that you can check out. So the guitar is a huge instrument. We have notes all the way from here up to here. If we wanted to play a middle C, we have 5 different options to play it on the guitar. We can play here, 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 or here. That's 5 different locations on the neck. The guitar is a big instrument. Now, in a rock band setting, a lot of bands use 2 guitarists. So in that case, what do? Because the guitar is such a big instrument and it takes up so much range that what can you possibly play at that point if you have a guitar, a bass, drummer, and a singer? So I'm going to be going a few tips that have helped me along the way and that have helped me fit into a situation like that. So the first thing I would recommend is check out the band Foo Fighters. Now I'm not just saying this as a super biased Foo Fighters nerd because they're my favorite band, but because they have 3 guitar players. And they have like a keyboard player now, which is crazy to me. But anyway, I remember back in around 2010, 2011 when I heard that Pat Smear was coming back to the band and they're gonna have 3 guitarists. I was like, whoa, what can they possibly do? There's so many guitars, what can they possibly play? So I'd recommend checking out some of that. Specifically check out the live performances and watch what they're playing and how they're playing it. In that instance, you see sometimes Dave Grohl is not even playing guitar because he's focusing on singing. There's also some instances of Pat Smear just but there's dozens of ways to navigate that. So check out what they're doing and kind of get some ideas from them. And from watching them over the years, I have a few tips for you. One of them is you don't always have to play. Like I just said, Dave Grohl sometimes just sits out and lets the music happen. When you're playing in a band, you don't always have to be playing. And that's a lesson that took me years to play because I'm super excited about music and I love music and I want to just play. And I have to remind myself, you don't always have to play. Sometimes it's good to just sit back and listen. So if this feels difficult for you, I have a challenge for you. So when you go to sit down and listen to music, first of all, if you don't regularly do this, just sit down on your couch or sit down wherever, listen to music without really any much distraction. I'd recommend doing that. If you love music, it's really good to get into the head of the music and really feel the music throughout your body. It's hard to kind of explain, but basically getting the language through that will really help you. And it'll also kind of clear up these situations. What are the 2 guitar players doing? A lot of times the guitars will be panned differently. So one guitar will be in one ear, the other guitar would be the other. So you can even take off one headphone or earbud or whatever and check out what only one guitar player is doing. This doesn't happen in all records, but this is kind of a common thing. So that's something to look out for. But anyway, when you're in that state of listening, try to kind of remember that feeling and try to feel what that feels like and try to associate a few emotions with it, And then the next time you play with your band, if you're at a moment where you're like, man, I really don't know what to play, don't play anything. Just kind of wait and bring yourself to that mode of a listener. Be like, what does this music need right now? If your instincts tell you nothing, don't play anything. If your instincts are oh man, I really need to get this sound out, then there you go, you have your answer. Another thing you can do, especially if the guitar player is chugging away at some chords, play some melody lines, play some lead lines. Now in the study of counterpoint, there's really 3 different types of motion. We have contrary motion, parallel motion, and oblique motion. And essentially, when you're in the situation of a lead guitar player, you have these 3 options, with the singer being the other melody line. So oblique motion is basically when one line is staying the same and the other line is moving. So essentially, if the singer is going that's not a very vocal melody, but if, for example, they decided to do that, you can be okay, that's in the key of C. I'm just gonna play C the whole time. That sounds pretty cool. There's some kind of motion in there. Let's go to E, for example. That's one answer. And for example, it sounds a lot different than C. It sounds a lot darker. What if we do A and go a little further in that? And B, what happens if we do B? You could even think, okay, let's do this ostinato line and let's change it every bar. That adds some motion. That sounds pretty cool. And even if the chords are playing in the background, you're not really going to clash with them because if they're down here chugging away, you can be up here. That's another consideration is range. How high are you in comparison to the other guitarists? But anyway, I just want to reiterate the top line is the vocal. You don't have to be playing both of those lines at the same time unless you want to. The next kind of motion is parallel motion. So for example, you can pick another note in the key. Let's say the singer's starting on C. I'm going to start on A. You know, that's like, for example, the Rugrats theme. I hope I didn't date myself too much by saying the Rugrats, but the parallel motion works really well. I hear it in a lot of metal bands. It's a cool way to harmonize. Great. And then finally, the third form of counterpoint is contrary motion. So if the singer's going, you can play this. So going against the singer while the singer's going. And then also there's just unison. You can play the same line, which isn't really counterpoint anymore, but unison lines sound really cool. Anyway, so this brings me to my last thing, which is triads, which is the thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So basically, if the other guitar player is playing a chord like this, you might want to play higher in the neck, but you might not be sure how to get there. You can play triads when you're up there, which is very far away from that first chord. Now, if you check out the chart I mentioned in the beginning, basically I divided it into a few rows and columns. Up here we have major, minor, augmented, diminished. These are all the E string triads. Then we have the A string triads, the D string triads, and the G string triads. These triads are the root, the third, and the fifth. If you're not exactly sure how to get that, I have a video on how to play chords in any scale, but check that out. And these are basically triads built on the root. The note that I have circled on the triads is where the root note is. So for example, if we take our first shape on the top left corner, we have a major triad. Let's say we want to play C. We're going to find C on the E string. So E, F, G, A, B, C. We got C right there. We're going to put that shape. It's going to be on the 8th fret. If we wanted to play B flat, 6th fret. If we wanted to play E flat, 11th fret. Same thing with the other ones. C, E flat, G flat. Let's do G flat, C, E flat. Same thing, C, E flat, G flat. So these are all major triads in all the string sets. So the first page is just root position. Now the second page is first inversion. This one is third, fifth, and root. Essentially when we're inverting it, we're just taking the root and putting it at the top. So basically you can identify this in two ways. If you're good at identifying thirds, like for example, the third of C is E, you want to, for example, play G major, the third of G major is B, B is on the 7th fret of the E string, we would start the position on the 7th fret with the E string. Now, the circle note is on the top now, so if we want to identify it by the root, we'd be basically looking at the notes on the D string if we're doing this voicing. So for example, if we wanted to play G, we'd find G, which is the 5th fret of the D string. Now, if we wanted to go to the next string set, we wanted to play C major, we'd find C on the G string, which is the 5th fret, and we'd play like that. If you wanted to play, for example, F, we can find F here. If we wanted to play A, we'd find A here, and so on. Then the third one is the second inversion, which is the 5th on the bottom. So we have the 5th, the root, and the third, and the root's going to be in the middle. So that one would sound like this. That's C. This one would be G. This one would be B flat. And this one would be E. And yeah, so if you're looking at this page and you're like, wow, how do I learn all this stuff? So the first exercise you might want to do is being able to play the inversions of the chords all up the neck. So if we wanted to do G major, we do root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position, first inversion. We can even do second inversion. So I'd start off with that. Then the next thing I would say is to play a chord progression and limit yourself. So either pick a string set. You can say, for example, I'm only going to use these top 3 strings and I'm only going to use triads from there. Another restriction you can use is I'm going to stay within this 4-foot range, like 7th to 10th fret. I'm going to start with just a string set 1, and basically I'm going to pick an easy chord progression. Let's pick a 1, 6, 2, 5 in the key of C. So we're going to do C major, A minor, D minor, G. So we have 3 places of starting since we know our inversions. We have C major here, we have first inversion, or we have second inversion. We can even start here with the root position again. So basically, I'm going to say let's pick this one. So I want to find the closest chord voicing. So we have C major here. If we spell out the notes of C major, we have C, E, and G. If we wanted to do the voicing of A minor, it would be A, C, and E. The only difference between C, E, G, and A, C, E is that one has an A and one has a G. So first we'd have to identify where the G is. So we have C, and then we have G, and then we have E. So the G is here. So we'd move that up to A. Remember, since we're in second inversion, we have the 3rd, 5th, and root, and G is the 5th. There's a bunch of different ways of thinking about this, and I recommend trying to think about it in all these different ways. The more ways you can approach it, the easier it's going to be, the better you're going to be at it. So basically, to get from C major to A minor, we just go like that. Now, if a guitar player is playing, you can play it 2 ways. It can be, or or you could be kind of acting as an extension of their chord, or you can even arpeggiate it. So we have that C major, then A minor, the next chord is D, so we're gonna have to switch up here, and then G. Now we can either jump back down to C to repeat it, or we can keep going up the neck. So if we wanted to restrict the frets, we can start at the same place. The first two fit within that. The third one fits within that as well. That's the D minor. So now we have to find G. Before we were playing G up here, but since we have to stay within the 7th and 10th fret, we have to now go down here. So then we have two options for the C major. We have this one or this one. So I'm going to choose this one so we can get a different journey. So then we have to go to A minor, so we can choose this one first inversion. Then we need D minor. So D minor, the closest one, is actually going to be here on this next string set. And then we have G, like this, C major, and then we have A minor again. We're kind of limited, so we have to go back up here. We can jump back down for D minor, and then G. So there's tons of possibilities for that, and that's a really good exercise to get your triads going and be able to learn new shape. So that's about all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I hope this has been useful, and I hope this all made sense. If you have any questions about this, please leave it in the comments. If you have any video recommendations, also leave that in the comments, because I'm always looking for new ideas, and I actually want to make videos that you guys would like to listen to. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Check out some of my other videos on the channel. I'm making new videos every Monday and Thursday. I'm making videos on music theory, guitar, gear demos, some performances, covers, stuff like that. So if you're into that, maybe consider subscribing. If you want, turn on the bell so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. But either way, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.